Okay, and thank you for joining me on another episode. I am here speaking to Misha Kolesoski, and Misha, I'm so happy to have you on my show. Thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you
Oh,
for having me.
awesome.
So,
So tell me all about you. So we've exchanged a few
oh,
emails, back and forth, but honestly, you're brand new to me, and I really
yeah.
have a lot to learn, I think. So tell me all about Misha.
Yeah. That I never achieved the level of fame that I always wanted to, you know.
Yeah.
I I'm joking. Yeah, I'm a songwriter, composer. I reached out to a few podcasts that I'd been enjoying in kind of like the promotion phase of trying to get the music out there. So I'd just released two albums, about 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and yeah, and so basically, I've just songwriter composer for the majority of my life, and here to talk about it.
Yeah. So how did you get started in all of your songwriting and composing?
Yeah. Well, when I was quite young, it was really the only thing that I wanted to do. Primarily, my first passion was opera. I wanted to be an opera singer badly,
Hmm.
but I have zero vocal talent. So for all of the years of taking voice lessons, and piano lessons to supplement that, I had to come to that realization that look, you're never this is never going to work for you,
Right. Yeah.
but along the way I had discovered that the music creation process was something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and so I shifted my attention to that,
Okay.
and and never looked back. I kind of found myself being very happy, um being the person in the background a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
and so I went to college for music composition. I had a terrible experience at university, and and so I dropped out. And the only real way to stay part of music after that was to start doing pop music. And so
Okay.
I started a band, and that led to another band, and and never stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's cool. But it's funny how life leads you thought you wanted to do opera and then
yeah,
you knew you couldn't, but you
yeah,
still had to stay with it somehow. So
yeah.
yeah. Awesome. So where do you reside right now?
Right, I'm in Oregon.
In
Yeah,
Oregon. Okay.
about an hour south of Eugene, if anyone knows the area.
Okay.
So,
So you're not
yeah.
in England.
Oh no, no, I went to school in England.
Okay, you went to school in
But
England. Okay.
yeah,
So when
yeah,
I look on
yeah.
your SoundCloud profile,
hmm
it says, did it say Eugene, England, in England?
No, no, no.
Oh,
I hope not.
okay.
I
Well,
need to fix that
I
if it
thought that
did.
I saw that, but I could totally be
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah.
I'll have to go check, make sure I'm not
Yeah.
properly positioned in the world.
Saying that you're in
Yeah.
England and I'm just
hmm
probably just saw something totally that my brain thought saw something and thought of something else right
hmm
away.
Yeah. Well, I am a proud University of Sheffield graduate, so,
Okay,
so
there you go. Awesome. So
yeah.
you said you didn't finish university, but
Uh, I did later.
you did
I
later. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I met a very sweet girl who told me outright that she did not want to be married to someone without a bachelor's degree at least.
Okay,
So, like
yeah.
like the spineless man that I was, I sucked it up and went back to school.
Oh yeah.
So,
At least you knew what you
yeah.
wanted, and
That's right.
you weren't like, hey, well, hit the road. I'm gonna do what I want. But no, that's
Right.
awesome. Yeah, but it would probably made you a better person for it.
I should hope so.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
second, yeah, the second time around, I did thoroughly enjoy the experience. So,
Yes. Well, I've
yeah.
done college a few times, and
Yeah.
I've I have dropped out of a couple things, but
Yeah.
finished a few things, so I can totally relate. Yeah.
What did you study?
Well, first I studied So at first I did early childhood education.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and actually I didn't really drop out. It was just online. So I was doing it kind of course by course.
Hmm.
So it was pretty much taking me like forever.
Yeah.
So I did the primary parts of it, and then I just didn't get the the actual placement parts done just because I was working as I was doing it, but I was
Hmm.
doing working in school. So
Very cool.
yeah, all of that
Yeah.
experience I wasn't allowed to use because I was getting paid for it. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I did that, and I don't want to take up talking about me, but yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
then
okay.
then I did finish my child and youth worker program, and I worked in the school board for 20 years with kids.
Okay.
So yeah, then I
That
kind of left that, got a little burnt out. But yeah,
I would imagine.
just recently
Yeah.
I finished a retirement residence management course.
Mm.
Um, but prior to that, I had started a business course and it was just not for me. So I totally dropped out of that one. But yeah, so I can totally relate. Life
Right.
changes and interest changes and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I like learning, so
Hmm.
it's all good. So yeah,
Very
so
cool.
you live in Oregon
I
and
do.
you're married.
Well, no.
Okay. Well,
I
you're okay.
Yeah, well, and again, well, it's just, it seems like it's always necessary to talk about in these talks because that was the big inspiration for the album. My wife passed away about two
Oh,
years ago,
oh, I'm so
and so
sorry.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So the albums were basically a way to come to terms with that level of
Okay.
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what happens sometimes, you find
Hmm.
your way to deal through grief, like music and
Yes.
art and
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on. Yep. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the songs, the songs that are straight up like rap, um, I have no skill in
Right.
doing that at all.
Yeah.
So the division of labor, for the two rappers, Rep and Sketch 27, they did all of their own vocal production and the lyrics and the performance. The only thing that's mine on those are the beats,
Okay.
the background tracks. The remainders of the songs, I wrote the lyrics and the music and brought on singers to do them. And really every single song is just primarily the same thing. Some of the lyrics are, quotes that my wife said to me, or like, vocal clippings of voice messages that she'd left me and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a little yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little what would you call it, exposed, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
it makes it that much deeper, people hear your whole story. Your music is,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Music changes a whole lot more once you find out a lot about the background and
Yeah.
information like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Although I do think there is something to be said for um, the listener's interpretation of it.
Yeah.
That I do think that there's a Rorschach test element art, and that it may be just an ink blot, but if you see a bat or something, then that's no less real to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. For
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
So so you live in Oregon and so do you have children?
No.
No
No.
children. Okay. That's okay.
No children.
That's
Yeah.
okay. You are on some days luckier than others, You've got some freedom. I have
Well,
2-year-old twins, so
oh, fun.
yeah,
My
you
my
know,
older brothers are twins. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, of course, it's a bad idea to live life with regrets. But if there was one regret I would have for my life, it would be not having a family.
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
there's still time.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
there's always time for everything, of course.
right.
So let's talk about your these albums. So the ones you just
Yeah.
came out with, what are they called?
A Year on Mercury and A Year on Mars. I decided that I was at the age where I could get away with releasing a double album,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
that was supposed to be a joke, but
Oh, let's look.
that's okay. No.
Oh.
Um, but really, once the songs started taking shape, and once the singers were and the instrumentalists were at a level of interest where I felt like this was something I could put out. It's just there weren't any songs that I felt justified in cutting,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know. So I ended up with 24 tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was, pretty extraordinary.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah.
the yeah, the titles of um, just falling into a deep rage-filled depression after the death of my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
worst of it was about, close to 2 months. And I was talking to a friend, and it was I described it as like kind of 56 days in hell, more
Yeah.
or less. And he said, well, that's like a year on Mercury. And I thought, okay,
Ah.
that's that's a great title.
Yeah.
Um, and then A Year on Mars, because I was talking to Sketch, who did one of the songs, and I guess there's just not that much that rhymes with Mercury. Makes that reference about going back to Mars, and I was like, okay, well, we're already doing planetary bodies to begin with, so one
Yeah.
more isn't such a big deal.
Go with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool though. I mean, people might be like, what is this going to be about? Am I going to like it? But when they listen to it, then they find out for themselves whether
yeah,
they're going to be a
yeah.
follower or not. And I was
Who
listening to
knows?
some of these, so I was obviously, trying to listen to what it was all about.
Hmm.
But they were like the ones I listened to were really beautiful. I mean, I haven't
Oh,
listened to a lot,
well, thank
but
you.
I mean, just even like the singers,
Hmm.
and whatnot, I thought that they were. It reminded me like a lot of like when you said about opera and stuff
Oh, okay.
in the beginning, or like there's very classical parts to some, right? If I'm
Yeah, no, no, you're absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, the fact that I've always started with instrumentals,
mm,
comes directly from my love of like musical theater or
right.
opera. That there's always an overture. I've been told so many times, do not start your albums with instrumentals because, people don't have the attention span for it these days, but it's just
Yeah.
something that I can't get away from.
No, I
Yet
think there's a lot of people who will still love that stuff, you know?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. The singers, I got very, very lucky. I went through a lot of singers that didn't work out.
Hmm.
Um, and had to, curating talent is probably one of the most difficult aspects of doing music, remotely.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. But how many different singers would you have on these two albums?
Uh, four singers and two rappers.
Okay.
Kali Malia, who is it's just an unbelievable vocalist. I can't believe the amount of expressive ability that she has,
Hmm.
coupled with just like pure technical perfection. Um, and that was a glorious find. And the fact that she wanted to work on the album. There's another singer, Niobe Morales, and she's actually Filipina.
Okay.
And you can hear it's surprising to me how much of her accent you don't hear when
Right.
she sings,
Yeah.
but she's actually like she's I think she's like 17 years old.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, but she's just one of those people that's like deeply passionate about music. There's Tim Condor, who I think he's a UK
Okay.
guy, and does that like British pop vocal. And then there's Marnie Richardson, who brought the gospel edge that I needed,
Right.
to
Yeah.
a couple of the songs. So yeah, they're a talented cast of people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You got to have. and you've got to have variety, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now when you're a songwriter, so
Mhm.
forgive me if this is a very silly question, but
No
so
worries.
there's no silly questions, but
Yeah.
so you wrote the songs, right? You've
Hmm.
composed them and you play the
Yeah.
music, and then the singers just sing along, right? You've written the words as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So then
Yeah.
they
And
sing along, obviously,
mhm.
to the song, and then that's basically how it goes, right?
For the most part, that's pretty much exactly right.
Okay, good.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm used to talking to like
Mhm.
singers. So
Mhm.
when I sat down and started listening, for one brief moment, for one brief moment, even though we've talked, I said, "Whose voice is that?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Wait a minute, no, the songwriter and
Right.
composing
Hmm.
the music." Yes.
Right, right. Yeah. So, I do actually send singers sheet music. I'm pretty rare in the pop world for doing that. Most songwriters won't do that. Again, it's like the division of labor idea has changed a lot in songwriting, really over the past, probably I would say 30 years or so.
Mm.
That a typical division of labor might go something like this, that the instrumentalist or the producer will give a performer the backing track and maybe lyric ideas, but it's up to them to come up with their own part.
Okay.
And I have tried to do that in the past, but it's just never worked out. So I've had way more success just writing the lyrics, writing the melody, writing everything, just saying here, um, and then they give their interpretation, and especially like if you listen to Kali Malia's songs, her ability to embellish on melodies is just phenomenal.
Wow.
So this idea of like you must sing it exactly this way,
Right.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that approach.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's good to have other input, like
yeah.
this is the way you thought you saw it out, but it's nice that you
Hmm.
welcome people and give them their space to like say, have them sing the way that they sing,
Exactly.
and
Right.
they help you make the song, you know,
Yeah.
so much better, right? Yeah.
I I agree. I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll see. What the audience has to say, but yeah, that's
Oh,
that's my
yes,
mentality at least.
for sure.
Yeah.
So when did you release these two albums?
Let's see. It's the 26th, so exactly 10 days ago.
Oh wow, brand new.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. So you have many
Oh,
albums
thank you.
though. Do you have many albums or are they yeah.
Yeah.
So how many albums do you have?
That's a great question. Instrumental albums, I think there are three.
Okay.
And because lyric writing is difficult and singers are expensive.
Yeah.
So, and then I believe there's, and I'm, not counting bands that I was in my 20s
Right.
or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots. Yeah, I'm just looking on SoundCloud here.
Yeah.
There's just so many. I just kept, scrolling and scrolling, but
Right.
that's awesome. So when did you start releasing albums?
Well, when I'd started my first band, we were kind of like an electronic pop, like melodic hip hop band. We were in Phoenix, Arizona at the time.
Okay.
And I would say, oh geez, it was around the time of September 11th. That was,
Oh,
I
wow.
remember we were producing a lot of stuff at that point, and and so we had recorded a small EP on like a cassette tape,
Yeah.
4-track recorder,
Okay.
and then later, making the transition just probably in like a couple of months into digital recording, and
Yeah.
that's when we put out our first album,
Okay.
which I still have and listen. It is I listen to it when I want to feel embarrassed about
Okay.
how little I knew
Yes.
about music production. But yeah, we released I think albums in that band. I started a band after that that had an album. And then I took a hiatus to go back to college where my composition was primarily like a neoclassical, contemporary composition, and returned to pop music when I had finished all of that.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's where
cool.
those albums come from that are on the SoundCloud. So I think like
Yeah.
2012, 2013,
Okay.
something like that.
And so do you only have them on SoundCloud or do you put them out?
There's a YouTube channel
Okay.
also, but
Yeah.
I've noticed that YouTube is a very poor venue for getting
Find,
music out.
finding
So
music. Yeah. So
yeah.
what about Amazon? Is there do you ever put any out on there
hmm
or
I used to release through Amazon, but then they stopped their independent artist releases.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and they may have brought it back. I don't know. Since they stopped it, I never bothered
Right, to look
to
back
look
into
again.
it.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the songs on here, so there's
hmm
24 combined, like between the
Yeah.
two. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
primarily
12,
like
12 on each.
12 and each. Okay. So like
Mhm.
primarily what what do they range between like with topics wise? Like what are they
Yeah.
basically about? Are they all just
Yeah.
kind of different?
Uh, you know, shamefully, no. No.
Okay.
I only had one thing to say
Yeah.
in the album, and that was that was the process of losing my wife.
Yeah.
So it's of the 24, I think there's six instrumentals and four rap, straight up hip hop rap.
Hmm.
So that would be 14 songs about losing my wife.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But that's okay though, because
yeah,
that's what you were going through and
it's true.
that's how you helped yourself and
Yeah,
people are going to not everyone will know that, but
that's
people
true.
are still
Yeah,
going to either love it or what have you. And like we
or
said,
push the
they
skip
may love
button.
it more than, knowing the full story or
Y-
and that kind of
You can
thing.
never tell.
You can never tell,
You
yeah.
you know, if there's one thing that I've learned in making music throughout my life, it's that you have no clue what people are going to latch on to.
Yes.
And there, I had put out stuff that I absolutely loved and was convinced that the audience would love, and it didn't really matter. I put out stuff that I was just trying to fill out, a playlist or a library, and that's what sold.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Everybody's different. People
Mhm.
are weird.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
The one
People
man,
are weird. Yeah,
one man's trash is another man's treasure.
it's
So
true.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, so your background, were your parents musical at all? Did you grow up
No.
listening to like lots of music or
Yeah, actually, I think my mother tried to discourage me as much as any mother could from
oh,
from going into music.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you think your music love came from? Like you wanted to be an opera singer. Where
hmm
do you think all that
Yeah, that's
stemmed
true.
from?
Do you remember that? I don't know if you ever saw Pretty Woman.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's this scene where Julia Roberts and Richard Gere go to the opera, and he says, people's first exposure to opera is very interesting because if they love it, it will always be a part of their soul, and that's exactly the experience that I heard it immediately, I loved it,
Yeah,
and and then I continued loving it.
right.
But as far as current projects, I've been asked to write the film score. There's a terrific film company here in Oregon called
Okay.
Spider King Studios, and they've just wrapped up shooting a film called Limbo.
Yes, I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to you about that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and so I've been asked to write the score to that. It's kind of a psychological horror,
Oh, okay.
yeah, film. So,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So do they tell you what they kind of want, or
hmm
do you make things up as you go,
Yeah.
or how does that work?
All of the above,
Okay.
So the director he's a young man, but one of the most unbelievably driven people artistically that I think I've ever met. His name is Jake Tranter, and he's an extraordinarily gifted director. But because it's a small company, the director has to take on wear a lot of hats. So he had requested a primarily strings and piano
Hmm.
soundtrack. So and I'm happy to do that. I know both of those instruments well.
Right.
And then, of course, there's like sound design elements and things like that that are
Yeah.
important to have, especially in something like a horror film.
Right.
Um, as far as the actual process goes, it is very much these days uh, uh, of having the film or the scene playing, and then you're kind of improvising to it until you find something that works, and then the music gets written from there.
Right. So you watch it first, and you
Hmm.
kind of think along as you go along and think what you can, you know, incorporate the
Hmm.
best kind of.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
how
of
yeah,
course.
go
Mhm.
ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I can be terribly long-winded.
Oh no,
So
go ahead, please. No, it's all about you. Talk, 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 talk. Yeah.
the process of film scoring, has changed a lot. Um, these days because sometimes like formal composers make the worst film scores, because they want to make it all about them.
Mm.
And it's one of those art forms where less is more, almost as a universal rule
Right.
now.
Yeah. So how do they go about finding you? Like, do they hear your music somewhere and contact you,
Hmm.
or did you?
Primarily, yeah. Oregon's small enough to where the artistic circles kind of overlap a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really it's fairly easy to get to know other artistic minds here in Oregon.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. You kind of word of mouth and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I had taught at the community college up here, um, and so for people who were involved in like the community theater or the college theater or things like that,
Right.
there's only so many of us basically. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I so I've lost my train of thought. So
That's okay. I threw you off.
no, that's okay. So they found you through there. So what are so speaking long term and kind of,
Hmm.
out there, but what are their hopes for them for their film? Like what could it mean for you?
Yeah, well, I think like any artist, the biggest hope is just that people will see it and it means something
Yeah.
to them.
And yeah, like who knows where
Hmm.
it might end up, if
That's true.
enough people
Yeah.
really love it and
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I, I was thinking about oh, what's that book that we all had to read in like eighth grade or something? Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you know, and
Oh,
and the author of that Bach, I think his name was Bach or Bachman. I don't remember. Anyway, the point is that I guess the dude went through like publisher rejection after rejection after rejection,
mhm.
and he never gave up. And now, looking back on the fact, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is in every school, at least in the United States.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, it does,
Hmm.
show. I mean, when I look at
Hmm.
movies, let's say, I always dislike people's opinions, especially,
Okay.
those two guys who always did the opinions for the movies. What
Oh,
were their
what is
names?
Siskel and
Yeah.
Ebert, or
And
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I always was like, but everybody has a different opinion, like one movie
Hmm.
they hated, I might have loved. And so that's the whole thing about
Hmm.
art and music and film and all
Yeah,
of that. Like everybody is so different in what they like, that not one person is going to see something one way the same way as other people.
it's so true.
Yeah, for sure.
Y- Yeah, especially those of us with very eclectic tastes.
Yes,
Um,
yes, eclectic. Yes,
yeah,
it's a very big word in my vocabulary.
no,
I find myself very eclectic. I like eclectic.
uh-huh,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. So I mean, even people listening to you, like, your these two brand new albums, I mean,
Hmm.
they could be also, very similar from other albums that you have
Hmm.
created. And
That's true.
they could be like, oh, I really like this guy. I really love his music. But then they listen to your other albums and they're like, I'm going to stick with the other kind. But
Sure.
but you have so many different, types of music you create.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you're always trying to avoid when you're producing art is falling into a rut.
Mhm.
Um, but yet, trying to maintain the style that you've kind of developed for yourself,
Yeah.
and that's a very very tricky balancing act. And so I think by putting some limitations on you, or just like venturing outside of your comfort zone a little bit, so for instance, um, Tim Condor's songs, I don't typically write for male vocals. I've always enjoyed female vocals, especially when it comes to electronic music.
Right.
And so I wanted to give that a shot. And Tim sings so beautifully,
Right.
right? Like that's the voice that I would love to have if I had any talent,
Yeah.
you know. And I think now looking back on it, I was like, why didn't I write for male voices more,
Yeah.
But just had to wait for the right time.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Maybe you're
mhm.
just jealous because they could sing and you couldn't. You were
That's it. That's
taking
it.
off for days.
Yeah,
No.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
for sure. So we only have a couple of minutes left,
Mhm.
but so how are your albums doing? Are you getting a lot of good feedback? And I've seen some comments on
Mhm.
SoundCloud, from people, and they're really, really enjoying what
Uh,
they're
pe-
hearing.
People have been very kind. It's
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, they seem to be doing better than the previous ones,
yeah.
So I don't know, that's a good sign. Of course, you have to develop a thick skin
Hmm.
in business,
Yes.
and it's interesting listening back to it now. It's like you could work one piece of art for the rest of your life forever. You've got to be able to put your projects to bed.
Yeah.
But I still listen back to the songs and think, I should have done this, I should have changed that. you know.
Yeah.
But
Things
so we'll
happen the
see.
way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how so people can find you on SoundCloud, and what's your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's called A Kinder Reality. That's AKinderReality. Where I actually host a podcast. I
Oh,
talk
cool.
to create. Yeah, I talk to artistic creators and try to discern the common threads of what inspires different kinds of artists, and that's called Ensnaring the Muse.
Okay.
So yeah,
Awesome. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
thank you.
Unfortunately, our time's going to run out soon.
Yeah,
But yeah, I will definitely post all this up on the video,
okay.
and I have a podcast too. I don't know if you want me to put it up there.
I would love it
Yeah,
if you
it's
could.
all about, talking to, you know, incoming artists and whatnot.
Hmm.
So singers, novelists, and that kind of thing. So I can
Great.
put up there too. And so I will get this all done. I'm gonna stop recording because we're not
Okay.
talking about
Well,
anything.
thank you for having me.
Yes, but I will send you a message through Fiverr, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
All
Thanks.
right.
Have a great
Take care.
day.
You
Okay,
too. Bye
bye
bye.
bye.